Right, so now we've done what we need to do in Xero itself to be able to connect it into Vico. We'll now look at the preferences within Vico. So if I click on the General Settings cog and head down to Accounts, so you can see here the Xero Test Store, which is the name of my Xero store. If I click Preferences, so as I showed you earlier, you have a chart of accounts within Xero, so that's all the various accounts that you can send data through to from Vico into your Xero account. So I'll just show you how they correspond within Vico. So sales account, if I click on the drop down, you can see there's a few different sales accounts, but the one I want my sales invoices to go against is my 200 sales. So this is the sales order revenue minus the shipping sales. So if you sold something for £20 and charge £5 delivery, in the 200 sales account we will only send through the £20. The shipping sales then will be split into the other revenue, so the £5 that you charge the customer for shipping, in this instance will go into this account. You can set the invoice status, so you have an option. You either send a sales invoice through to Xero as fully authorized, or you do have an option of sending it through as draft. So draft just means it will go through to Xero for you to view, but it won't affect any of the figures on your profit and loss or balance sheet until you then authorize it within Xero. So it may be that initially, when you sign a new client up and you set up Xero, they'll want to send things through as draft, just so they can make sure it's going through correctly before it actually affects any figures on Xero. Once they're happy, you can just send it straight through as authorized. Again, so the Vico orders, so the ones that are going to go to this 200 sales and the shipping as well, do you want to send that through to Xero including the tax figures from Vico, or do you want to send it excluding tax? Again, that would be purely down to the client's own preference. Order status. So this is basically saying that at what status over an order do you want the data to actually be sent through to Xero? So closed orders means we'll only send through orders and raise sales invoices once you've marked that order as shipped within Vico. So closed and paid would mean it's either shipped or it's in awaiting stock or awaiting fulfillment, but you have had confirmation that the order is being paid for. Or the final one is closed and open. So this is pretty much any state, whether it's shipped, awaiting stock, awaiting fulfillment, or waiting for payment. Generally speaking, most would select closed orders, but again, client's own preference. So the payment account. So this is where the payments for the orders should be saved. So this is generally a Xero bank account. So this is where you'll send through to say that, right, money in the bank now, I've been paid £100 for this order, so we're going to add £100 into my bank account. And again, the client may have multiple bank accounts, they would select one. Just a note on this, some clients may want to send, or may expect that we can send sales from Amazon into one particular chart of account, sales from eBay into a different one. At the moment, we will only send it through to one chart of account. I believe in version 2 of Xero, we will have the option to choose where you send data depending on where the orders come from, etc. But as things stand at the moment, it's one account. So the inventory settings. So this is the purchase orders. So as I said, when you raise a purchase order in Vico, we will put the inventory into the stock on hand account, which is the one we set up in the previous video. So if you recall, I set my starting balance at £2,000. So my overall inventory was worth £2,000. If I raise a purchase order in Vico for £10,000 worth of stock, Vico's going to send that purchase order through and add the £10,000 worth of inventory, the 10,000 figure, into my stock on hand. So my new stock on hand balance would be £12,000. So again, cost of goods sold. So you sell something for £20, it cost you a certain amount to buy that product in the first instance. So Vico will calculate what you paid for the item and create a manual journal, which is where we had to set the advisor option. So we'll say, right, again, somebody's bought something for £20, so we raise a sales invoice for £20, but we will also create a journal to say that of that £20, it actually cost you £16 to buy that item in, which obviously what you sold it for minus your cost of goods will give the profit figure. So again, this is the inventory purchases. So when you raise a purchase order, not only do we increase the stock on hand figure to show that you've now got more inventory in stock, you owe your supplier for that £10,000. So you're going to have to pay that at some point. So we will raise a payable bill for your supplier, so supplier invoice essentially. So this section's not live yet, so we don't need to worry about this. So again, this is coming back to what I said about being able to create line items in Xero and store the inventory figure. It's not something we do simply because our view is Xero's there for your accounts, Vico's there to manage your inventory, so it's not necessary for us to transfer the inventory figure through to Xero. Again, as with sales invoices, purchase invoices, you can send them through as authorized or draft. And likewise, purchase order status. So if you've ordered 10 different products from your supplier, you can choose that that purchase order will only go through to Xero once you've received those 10 different items in. So you've fully marked the purchase order as completed and received. Or you can have it that if of those 10 items your supplier has sent through 5 of them because they're out of stock on the other 5, you can have the purchase order to send across to Xero to account for the 5 items you've received in. Then when you eventually get the other 5 items, and that's marked as complete, we'll send the additional information for those extra 5 items you've received at a later date through to your Xero account. Once you've saved your settings, the way we actually sync through to Xero, so it's not an automated thing, depending on the client's own preference, most people will do it, push the sync button once per day, maybe once per week, once per month, whatever they want to do. But as soon as they hit that sync button, we will send all of the sales invoices, all of the purchase orders that have been raised in Vico since the last time a sync was made within Vico.